Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest foot reading video. We are officially live on the YouTube channel, so if you are a subscriber, you probably got notified that we were doing this live event. And so we are 100% on the live spectrum, and I am going to be checking our comments and our chats as they come in live. So if you are watching live, make sure to let me know kind of where you're watching from. And if you're watching the replay, let me know where you're watching from too. I love to connect with my people all over the world because reflexology is a universal force and we all deserve to know each other. So without further ado, let's share my screen and get into the presentation. Okay. Yay, feet. So we are here on the 9th of May to analyze this amazing set of feet. Yes, this person lovingly donated their feet to science, and I have blurred out their face with a nice little heart just to make sure that they remain anonymous. But we will be discussing these feet specifically because they are worth discussing. Okay. And for those of you who are not already members of the Foot Reading and Reflexology online community, that is the FROC group on Facebook where we are located and where this challenge came from. So if you want to be a part of future videos like this and get the inside scoop, that's where we're at. But we are going to be talking about what I see in these feet, what I would say and not say to particular clients that I would be doing a foot reading consultation for, either live here at the Institute or online via Skype, because I have clients all over the world that Skype me in, and then what to do about it. So it's not just about reading the feet and assessing the various reflexes. It is also about making sure that you're able to coach and educate a client, which is the C and E of ACE. We are never trying to diagnose, prescribe, or treat. We are not trying to DPT. We are always trying to ACE, assess, coach, and educate. So, context and story. This is what we're really going to be zooming in on this particular video about because it is very important for us to kind of recognize the theme of things going on here. And the first is we're going to talk about body system themes. So in this pair of feet, there are going to be multiple pictures that show us the exact same kind of markers for dysfunction, but they will echo each other, which is really, really cool. So we're going to be talking about the importance of body system themes, and when we look at particular markers, how they are echoed through the feet and how you can really validate your theories based on kind of what you're finding in multiple markers, not just the ones. System interconnectedness, we're also going to be talking about how body systems influence each other, because that's really important, not just understanding like the heart reflex is cardiovascular, but how does the cardiovascular system influence the other systems of the body. Then we're going to be focusing on actionable steps with this person because there are some very specific things that they need to do first before they start to find symptom relief in other areas, which I find a lot. Clients will come in and they'll say, Sam, I want my back pain to go away. I'm like, great. Well, first we need to fix this and this, and then the back pain will disappear because it's actually a secondary symptom. It's a tip of the iceberg, and we need to really start from the ground up, not the top down. So all of that, very interesting. So let's pull up that first original picture that I showed you at the beginning of these lovely, lovely feet. So many of you have commented on the lines, which we'll talk about. Some of you picked up on the callousing, the puffiness. All of those things are totally accurate, but here is what I really would focus on in a reading if this were my client. So first and foremost, we have this gigantic liver gash. It literally looks like somebody took a knife and just sliced the liver reflex. And we know this is the liver reflex because it is underneath the ball of the foot and above the waistline guideline on the kind of mid-arch area. And that line, that deep, deep slice, representing that there is weakness in that liver reflex, which is not okay, right? We don't want the liver to be weak and deficient, but that is definitely what we're seeing here. Also, from a mental emotional side, this is going to indicate past career fatigue. So basically the actions that they were taking were draining them more than they were actually fulfilling them, which is, not okay long term, but totally okay short term. Like, you have ebbs and flows in business, you have ebbs and flows in life. It just so happens that this person really, really got affected by their past career instances, and we would need to bring that up to the surface as well. Marker number 2, let's talk about this indented stomach reflex. So we can see the gash on the right side in what we would call horizontal zone 3, in between the diaphragm guideline and the waistline guideline, on what's also known as the distal arch. But then we also have the stomach reflex on the other foot, because liver is on the right, stomach is on the left. We can see that it looks like somebody almost took like a spoon or an ice cream scoop and kind of just took a chunk out of the arch. Not pleasant. And when we think of another air marker, so lines are one air marker, kind of open space is another version of the air marker, just indicating emptiness, indicating a lack of tissue, a lack of nutrients, a lack of vitality, feelings of emptiness. And if that's right over the stomach, then that would indicate the stomach is being empty, nutrition being low, but also this person isn't eating as much as they should. The body is not as filled, both literally, but also metaphorically. When we think of right foot as past, left foot as present, right foot being in the same area, horizontal zone 3, past career, present career on the left side is also slightly depleted. Not as much as the right side, so they have come back to what might be like their quote-unquote normal career stance, but because we're still seeing a lot of this openness, a lot of this hollowness in horizontal zone 3 on the left foot, this tells us that they're still not fulfilled by their career, and we really need to fill in the gaps both physically in terms of diet, but also internally in terms of career and actions. Both are very important. Then we have marker number 3, which is going to be our lower GI irritability. So we can see what I talked about at the beginning, like stacking markers, things that are validating the exact same interpretation over and over again. This idea that the liver is weak, the stomach is weak, and then we have lines over the lower digestive reflexes indicating that the lower digestive system is weak. So this is all like GI territory. This is all gastrointestinal, very much. Oh, hey, Sandy, jumping on. Everybody's in the chat. Sandy's one of my live students. And so marker number 3 is that lower GI irritability. We know it's irritable because we're not just seeing lines here indicating weakness, we're also seeing waves. And waves are kind of like in the reflexes when we see ups and downs. That's exactly how the physical kind of organ reflexes are also behaving. Highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. And so the waves are definitely giving us an idea that the lower GI is not processing food appropriately, but we can also see from a right to left standpoint, again, that there's not as much deep lining and waves on the left as there is on the right. So we can see a theme that there is in horizontal zone 3, that career and action space and that upper digestive space, same thing happening in horizontal zone 4. So past relationships and family were also very stressed. And then now they're starting to get better into a new normal, but still we see some fluctuations there. So both the upper GI and lower GI, but also career and actions and family and relationships, totally repairing in terms of kind of long scheme stuff, but not as healthy as we would like them to be. So that's something that we definitely need to take into consideration with these. And then last marker, oh, I fooled you. So top 3 markers. Sometimes when we see markers like 1, 2, 3, 4, specifically the first 3 are all talking about the digestive. So if you wanted to really kind of group markers number 1, 2, and 3 into an overall marker 1 as digestive irritability, you totally could. That's how I would simplify that, but I really wanted to break them down as an example for you all. So marker number 1 as a collective, digestive stuff. Marker number 4 would technically be marker number 2, but we're going to talk about thyroid puffiness. We can see at the base of the neck what would be the big toe as the head space, the physical like skull, and then the neck reflexes below that, representing the neck, When I'm seeing puffiness here, this is also right over the thyroid parathyroid reflex. Not something that I like to see in conjunction with digestive reflexes that are compromised like this, because the thyroid does regulate metabolism. So the fact that the digestive system is hollow, weak, and fluctuating, paired with the thyroid reflexes being inflamed and puffy, means that the body's metabolism is just really, really struggling. They might be experiencing energy highs, energy lows. They might even be experiencing like swollen lymph nodes because they're not eating. Their digestive system has been kind of sluggish and fatigued. And so their body might even be producing a semi-immune response, which would make sense with the puffiness on the thyroid, parathyroid, but also like neck reflexes in general. So all these things kind of leading to this digestive metabolism. We could also internally talk about this puffiness as being horizontal zone 1 territory, which is thoughts and opinions. I really like to delineate between the pads of the toes representing the actual mind and the necks of the toes representing the voice, or how somebody is vocalizing their thoughts. And so puffiness here would mean that they're actually holding back their words as opposed to letting them drain freely and letting them be spoken. So it seems like this person, because of the stress, because of the sensitivity, because they were just tired, they've been holding back their words in a way that's producing puffiness in the reflex, but also thyroid metabolism issues. That making sense to everybody so far? We're going over a lot of stuff and it's kind of fast. I also had coffee this morning. So on that note, let's talk. Oh, where did my picture go? Give me 1 second, y'all. Let's go with escape real quick, and let's pull this. F5. Boop, 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 boop. Technical dysfunctions. I apologize, but we are back on track. So this is picture number 2. Picture number 2, we need to confirm markers number 1 through 3. So the way that we're going to confirm markers number 1 through 3 is we are going to find our anemia bump. And I've done a video on this. Everybody's super curious about this. It seems to resonate with a lot of people, so I'm gonna keep talking about it, even though you might have heard it a couple different times. So when we find a dorsal bone bump in line with the first toe in horizontal zone 3, specifically, that would be the proximal head of the first and second metatarsals. When that bony prominence has started to increase in protrusion, that means that there is, in fact, from personal experience that I've seen and from clients that I've spoken with at length about their digestive system, that they are, in fact, on the anemic spectrum. So with this marker being present, in addition to everything that we've seen, although it's not an additional marker that I would personally kind of like hammer home and make the client be like, yeah, so this is another thing saying that your digestive system is broken. It's definitely something that I would personally use to confirm that, yes, this person is in fact malnourished. Their body is showing multiple signs of not being okay in the digestive space. And this is one of the things that I would use to confirm markers number 1 through 3. If we really wanted to be specific about it, we can see that the bone bump is larger actually on that left foot. It's more pronounced. You can see that by the shading slightly. Because that bone bump is larger on the left foot, that would mean that the malnutrition is more directly related to the stomach and the upper digestive system on the left side versus the right side, which would be more liver. I find that the bump is larger on the right side in people who truly have like a pernicious anemia, more serious blood-related anemic issues. If it's on the left, it tends to be more like the person just isn't eating, and that's part of the equation. They're skipping meals. They're not, the meals that they are eating are very low nourishment content, probably a lot of carbs, a lot of quick things, protein bars and smoothies, you know, all that jazz, things that are not like bulk fiber nourishment, soul food, healthy fats, all that jazz. Okay. And an additional 2 points of discussion. Let's talk about some other things that are happening in this dorsal aspect. Now, we've already pegged digestive issues and metabolism issues, and we've confirmed the digestive issues with another marker. Now we're going to confirm the digestive issues, but also add in stress, specifically mental stress. So let's kind of go through that really quick. Syndactyly. So some of you know what a syndactyly is. Others are like, that's a Jeopardy word. I don't understand what that is. Does not compute. So a syndactyly, syn like synthesize, meaning to come together, and dactyl meaning digit. So a syndactyly is when the toes are fused. And we can see that I've circled this on either foot. Normally a syndactyly occurs between the second and third toe. That's a common place for a syndactyly to occur. Rarely it'll occur between the third and fourth, but normally it's second and third. When a syndactyly occurs on the second and third toe, it's also a marker for acid reflux for me. It's basically zone 2 and zone 3 are too connected, and so that you can think of it as that that hiatus, that space between the esophagus and the stomach is just kind of collapsed or conjoined, and that is leading to symptoms of acid reflux on a regular basis. Fun stuff. But also from a mental emotional standpoint, we have vertical zone 2 in line with the second toe and vertical zone 3 in line with the third toe. Mentally and emotionally, that's the influence of feelings and emotions and career and actions. So a syndactyly also represents, in addition to acid reflux type symptoms, that this person is affectionately married to their work. Interesting, right? So whenever you see the second and third toe fused, it's always a sign that this person, their work comes first above all else. Now, this is fantastic from an employee standpoint because they're very loyal to what they do. They also have entrepreneurial streaks. They tend to take everything that they do career-wise very, very personally. But then also, it tends to, with the symptoms that we've already seen and the stress patterns that we've already seen in these feet, it definitely means that this person has been, burning the candle at both ends is the best way to say it. They've let their work kind of take over their life for a brief moment, and they continue to do so, which, I mean, the syndactyly isn't totally fused. It's only fused at that proximal phalanx of the toes, so it's not a total takeover. I've seen worse. But definitely something to be aware of, that this person's going to have a hard time detaching their feelings from their career and actions. Then we have this additional discussion marker of past mental stress. Now, why is it past mental stress? Because you can see the difference in the toenails on these feet. So on the right side, we have the big toenail that is curved. It is almost shell-like. And you can see that it's slightly separating from the nail bed itself. And this indicates that the person's mind was bursting at the seams. They needed to create more mental space. They were very much protective of their thoughts, and they just had way too much happening on their mind in the past, because we're looking at the right side. Left side, the nail has become flat, deflated, slightly fragile. We can see some of those white lines popping up if you really zoom into the video, but that indicates that everything has leveled out, both physically and mentally and emotionally in their headspace. So additional discussion, in addition to the career stress, the family stress, the digestive stuff, and definitely the dietary deficiency, it seems like the stress patterns mentally are also being mirrored in the toenails, which we can very greatly see. All of that coming together, we have a couple things to talk about. So physically, major digestive weaknesses and malnourishment, potentially due to past stress, are creating physical instability. So we talk about the lines, the fluctuations, the gash on the liver, the dorsal bone bump, as well as that syndactyly, and we can really talk about how the digestive area is the source of our physical problems in these feet. We really need to drive that home to the client, letting them know that, hey, if there was one area that you needed to focus on, it's the physical digestive system, potentially due to past stress as well, and it's creating physical instability. We'll talk about that in a second. Internally, a workaholic type attitude caused this person to experience a deep rock in her lifeboat when she tried to tough it out during a recent stressful time. That's a really nice way to say that this person, again, burning the candle at both ends, they just, when I say they experienced a deep rock in their lifeboat, so the metaphor of, like paddling through life in a boat, yes. So their boat got rocked. There was a lot of turbulence on the waters of their life. They started, skipping meals. They started to slip up on their daily self-care, preventative maintenance. And it's all because they really were trying to hold everything up, both career-wise and also family-wise. So because they tried to push through the stress as opposed to kind of surrender to the stress and kind of take the time for themselves and really make sure that they were okay, they neglected themselves in place for kind of just getting through it. We can see that as reflected in the markers of their feet. So that's how we come up with that internal meaning. Methods of balancing. Nourishment is key for this body, period. Nourishment, nourishment, nourishment. The mental stress, which could also be connected to sinus issues, headaches, the acid reflux, some markers that we're going to see in the next slide. All of that is going to be back to the digestive system. So with these feet, we're seeing way too many digestive markers to consider any other markers as even remotely relevant. Like, we're seeing so much kind of red flags produced by the body around the digestive reflexes that even if this person was coming in with back pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, couldn't sleep, restless legs, what would be some other things? Brain fog, like all things that I'm just rattling off the top of my head that the markers might suggest. This person needs to focus on food first. If their body does not have fuel in the tank, then everything else will be exacerbated. Likewise, everything else is linchpinning on the fact that this person isn't eating properly. And that's part of the discussion here. So there is nothing else that would be more important than regular meals throughout the day with high quality nutrients. Limiting liver taxing foods and drinks and taking the time to rest will also aid in the absorption process. Notice how I took that direct slash on the liver and I incorporated it into the methods of balancing statement, where I said, look, there's this huge, huge marker on the liver reflex, so we don't want to overtax that. That means super duper fatty, heavy, rich foods, but also things like alcohol, things like energy drinks, things like large amounts of like processed food we want to stay away from because the liver is still recuperating from the stress. Although stress is recovering, because we are seeing that right side to left side difference. So we are seeing the body kind of healing itself. The echo of it is still very present within the body. So she is still struggling with the stress that has subsided. It's still kind of echoing throughout the body systems. So we really want to make sure that this person does not think that just because the stress is done, that they can continue toughing it out and neglecting themselves. We really want to make sure that their body is taken care of in all aspects, and that they're not just saying, well, now that external circumstances have sort of worked themselves out, I can, continue to skip meals and eat like crap, because that's definitely not the case. Okay, so let's talk about what didn't make the cut. So there were a couple pictures and definitely some markers that some of you were picking out in the Facebook group that, although yes, they are very present, yes, they are totally good markers, no, I would not include them in the reading, and here's why. So we see with this blue circle here, the waves in the skin, again, with waves being fluctuations, fluid retention. Specifically here, we have the lower back reflexes. We can see it's above that heel, but then below that proximal head of the first metatarsal. So that's low back territory. That's lumbar spine territory. So they could be talking about low back pain that just won't quit, but it's deficient low back pain. Again, back to that idea that their body doesn't have the nutrients that it needs to hold proper musculoskeletal tone. That's the problem here. is although back pain may be a marker and may be a complaint for this person, it all relates to the fact that their tank is empty. So even if we say, yeah, go do some stretches, yeah, put some heat on that back, it's irrelevant because their body doesn't have the nutrient content in order to rebuild the muscle tissue and keep it sustainable, right? So it's not a good marker to focus on during a reading for that reason. Then we have this fluid. So you can see these patches of fluid. A lot of you talked about that. Again, kind of mirroring the waves in the spinal reflexes for the lower back, definitely also low back, but also reproductive territory here. That fluid retention gives us the idea that yes, low back may be present, yes, fluid imbalance, yes, hormone imbalance, but again, back to the idea of food. This is also horizontal zone 4 representing lower GI. So the fluid retention in the pelvis, that bloating, that gas, that distension is also from the poor quality of nutrient. All of that, and especially if there are a lot of carbs involved, carbs retain water and produce inflammatory states in water retention. So it's like everything is coming back to this idea that this person really just needs to focus on diet over all things at this point. No amount of physical movement or stress reduction would help the fact that this person is just deficient, So we really need to focus on what the feet are telling us as the major priority, because markers number 1 through 3 clearly laid out that the digestive system has been the source of major dysfunction, and then the dorsal bone bump says malnourishment. So every other system and every other symptom would potentially fade away if the body was fed properly. Yeah. So when we think of like a triangle in terms of food, movement, stress reduction. Are they nourishing themselves properly? Are they moving properly and getting enough exercise? And are they reducing their stress and handling life overall internally well? The stress has passed. The movement isn't necessary because they have a really steady frame. They have a somewhat earthy constitution that they can get away with not moving as much. But it's just so many markers are telling us that food is the issue. And that's part of why these pictures and these markers did not make the cut. Cool. So that's it. I hope that you all enjoyed this foot reading video. Make sure to subscribe, join the Facebook group. Just search for Foot Reading and it should come up right away. If you wanted to buy my book, it's called Foot Reading, a Reflexology Primer on Foot Assessment. You can find out details in the description below. Take the Foot Reading online certification course if you're interested. That's also, the link is in the description below. If you would like to become a certified foot reading practitioner, I have an online course with 13 lessons and a certification track that you can take in order to up your foot reading skills. And then email your feet in for the 100 Feet Project if you'd like to maybe not be, publicized in my next book, or if you just wanted to post your feet in the group and, get other people's thoughts, or if you have clients or friends or family that you're concerned about, you can always do that. But if you'd like to be in my next book entitled The 100 Feet Project, where I'm actually documenting feet and publishing them into book number 2, that would be an excellent opportunity for you to do that, with the details below, with the link to the projects page on the website. And stay tuned because there's a lot more coming. Excellent. So we will stop the screen share and we'll chat a little bit. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate you. Videos like this would not be possible without you. So continue to interact, continue to comment. Thank you for everybody who's chatting. I know I didn't get to a lot of your questions because we had to zip through that real quick. It's almost 11 o'clock. It is 10:59. So didn't want to keep this for more than a half hour, but join the group. Make sure to connect with me. I'm super accessible, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Mwah. Ciao.